OpenAI's new GPT 5.5 just doubled its API price. Google's pouring $40 billion into Anthropic and pushing its own agent platform. And we'll dig into why these moves are reshaping the AI infrastructure battlefield for every builder out there. No BS AI briefing brought to you by Proactive AI. Welcome back. I'm your host, Vikash Sharma, and this is where builders get straightforward AI news without the fluff. First up, OpenAI just dropped GPT 5.5, and it's a big one. This isn't just an incremental update, it introduces some serious agentic capabilities. We're talking autonomous planning, tools use, and the ability to complete multi-step tasks without needing step-by-step instructions from us. That's huge for automation. But here's the kicker. The pricing has effectively doubled compared to GPT 5.4. You're looking at $5 per 1 million input tokens and $30 per 1 million output tokens now. Ouch! For builders, this means you absolutely can start designing more sophisticated autonomous agents for complex workflows. But you've got to factor in those significantly higher per token costs. OpenAI claims a 20% net cost reduction per task because the model is more efficient and uses fewer tokens overall for the same job. But you really need to validate that against your own workloads before you migrate or commit. They've also introduced a GPT 5.5 Pro variant for high complexity enterprise workflows and, importantly, stricter safety classifiers, especially around cyber risk. So if you're building for regulated industries, integrating OpenAI's enhanced safety protections is becoming table stakes. Next, Google's making some major moves, rebranding Vertex AI to the Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform. This isn't just a name change, it signals a clear focus on becoming the standardized control plane for building, deploying, and orchestrating AI agents. Think of it as a central hub for your agent ecosystem. Alongside this, Google also announced its 8th generation TPUs. That's TPU-8T for training massive models and TPU-8i specifically designed for low latency inference. They also unveiled the Virgo network, a new data center fabric that's all about high speed, low latency communication. For builders, having a standardized control plane like this can significantly reduce the amount of custom orchestration code you need to write, freeing up your engineering resources. And those new TPU-8i chips, they're targeting real-time use cases, opening up possibilities for products where inference speed is critical. Plus, workspace intelligence is now generally available, meaning you can integrate agents directly across Docs, Gmail, and Calendar. Imagine automating document summaries, meeting follow-ups, or email triage directly within the tools your team already uses every day. That's a huge unlock for productivity. Also, IBM is beefing up its AI offerings, with RITS now incorporating vLLM, their research inference and tuning service. This is all about centralizing LLM inference across teams, which can be a game changer for larger organizations looking to manage costs and governance. By centralizing inference, you reduce redundant compute and ensure consistency in how models are used. Beyond that, Jaeger v2, a popular distributed tracing system, has been completely rebuilt with native OpenTelemetry support. And this is key. It now supports new agent-specific protocols, the Model Context Protocol, Agent Client Protocol, and Agent User Interaction Protocol. For builders, especially those working with multi-agent systems, Jaeger v2 provides standardized observability. You can trace tool calls, monitor token usage, and even understand the reasoning paths your agents take. This is absolutely critical for debugging, optimizing performance, and meeting compliance requirements in complex AI applications. The adoption of these new agent protocols also strengthens interoperability, which is vital for building robust, modular, multi-agent systems. Shifting gears to big money, Google just committed an incredible $40 billion to Anthropic. This isn't just a simple investment, it's a massive strategic play. The commitment includes an immediate $10 billion investment, valuing Anthropic at a staggering $350 billion. But perhaps even more significant than the cash is Google's promise to provide Anthropic with multiple gigawatts of dedicated TPU compute capacity. To put that in perspective, that's a tremendous amount of raw processing power, guaranteeing Anthropic the resources it needs to scale its models dramatically. This new commitment brings Anthropic's total funding to over $65 billion. For builders, this underscores a critical trend. Proprietary compute access is rapidly becoming the ultimate differentiator in the AI landscape. Expect even tighter integration between Google's cloud services and Anthropic's models. This kind of investment also ratchets up market pressure on AI startups that don't have this kind of infrastructure backing. It signals that the biggest players are doubling down on owning both the models and the underlying hardware. And finally, in a major real world impact story, Isomorphic Labs is pushing AI designed drugs into human trials. This isn't a theoretical application anymore, it's moving into clinical validation. Specifically, they're preparing human trials for AI designed oncology candidates using AlphaFold based molecules. This is a massive leap forward. If these trials prove successful, it will be a monumental validation of AI driven discovery processes under the most rigorous regulatory scrutiny. For builders, this creates immense demand for specialized tools and platforms that can seamlessly integrate molecular design, clinical data management, and compliance workflows. Think about the entire drug discovery pipeline, from initial AI powered design to regulatory approval. Every step will need robust AI accelerated tooling. This isn't about making existing processes 10% faster, it's about fundamentally changing how we discover and develop new medicines, potentially compressing timelines that currently take years, even decades. It's a powerful example of AI moving from research papers to tangible, life changing products. Now, for our deep dive today, I want to talk about Google's $40 billion bet on Anthropic and what those massive numbers imply for the entire AI infrastructure landscape. What happened is clear. Google's poured an unprecedented amount of capital and, critically, dedicated compute power, multiple gigawatts of TPUs, into Anthropic. This isn't just Google playing venture capitalist. It's a strategic move to secure a major player in the foundation model space and ensure they have the raw compute to compete at the very top tier. Anthropic, known for its safety focused approach, has now secured over $65 billion in total commitments, positioning it as a cornerstone in the AI ecosystem. Why this matters right now is that it's a monumental scale play, not just on capital, but on compute, talent, and ultimately control of the enterprise AI stack. We're seeing a clear acceleration of the AI arms race, where access to specialized hardware like TPUs is becoming just as important, if not more important, than the models themselves. This kind of investment cements a critical relationship between a cloud giant and a leading model developer, and it will undoubtedly influence the direction of both their product roadmaps and the broader market. It's a signal that the AI game is fundamentally shifting towards a battle for foundational infrastructure. So, who should care about this? Founders of AI startups. You absolutely should care. This investment highlights how critical compute access has become. It's a significant moat. If you're not backed by one of the hyperscalers, or you don't have a clear strategy for securing cost effective, large scale compute, you're at a distinct disadvantage. Expect to see further consolidation and deeper cloud model tie ups. Product managers. If your product relies heavily on a large language model, you need to understand the implications of these deepening relationships between cloud providers and model makers. This could impact your future pricing, the availability of specific features, and your overall platform choices. You can't afford to be blind to these strategic alliances. Imartier, infrastructure engineers. This is a massive signal for you. TPU demand is only going to tighten further. You need to start architecting for portability across different providers now. Vendor lock in, which has always been a concern in cloud computing, is becoming even more pronounced in the AI space. Designing for flexibility isn't optional anymore, it's survival. Even bad indie hackers should pay attention. While you might not be training foundation models, this trend underscores the challenge of scaling any AI intensive application without a significant infrastructure backing. It might push you towards leveraging specialized APIs and managed services rather than trying to build everything from scratch. How I'd think about this as a builder is that this is a clear, unambiguous signal that the AI game at its core is about infrastructure. It's not just about clever algorithms anymore. It's about who controls the raw processing power, who owns the factories, so to speak. My mental model for this is that compute capacity is the new oil. These huge investments aren't just about making money, they're about securing that crucial resource for decades to come. If you're building at the application layer, you need to deeply understand which oil company you're buying from and what their long term strategic play is. Don't assume that open access to unlimited cheap compute will just be a given forever. This move by Google against the backdrop of OpenAI and Microsoft's existing partnership shows us that the biggest players are willing to spend massive amounts of capital to control the entire AI ecosystem, from the silicon up to the end user applications. It's a power play, plain and simple. My no BS take on this is that this isn't hype, it's a strategic land grab. The companies that control the underlying compute infrastructure and the top tier foundation models will dictate the future of AI. For us as builders, it means less free for all innovation at the absolute foundation model layer and a much sharper focus on building on top of these consolidating powerful platforms. You simply can't ignore the gravity of these infrastructure plays anymore. If you're finding this useful, hit follow in your podcast app right now. It takes 2 seconds and it's the best way to make sure you don't miss the next briefing. If you want one practical takeaway from today's episode, here it is. Experiment with prototyping a GPT 5.5 agentic workflow within your team this week. Here's how to try it in under 60 minutes. First, identify a multi-step task that currently requires human intervention or multiple API calls in your product or internal operations. Think something like processing a support ticket end-to-end or automatically generating a project brief from disparate meeting notes. It shouldn't be trivial, but also not your most complex core workflow. The idea is to find something that has enough steps to really test out the agent's autonomous capabilities. Second, using the new GPT 5.5 API, set up a simple agent, give it a high-level goal for that task, and let it leverage its new autonomous planning and tool use capabilities. You might need to give it access to some mock tools or internal APIs if you have them, or even just define a clear output format it needs to adhere to. The key here is to let the agent figure out the sequence of operations itself rather than you scripting every single step. Third, run a few examples through your prototype. Crucially, measure the token usage and calculate the actual cost compared to what a similar workflow might have cost with GPT 5.4. OpenAI claims a 20% net cost reduction due to lower token usage from improved efficiency, but you need to validate that against your specific workloads. Don't just take their word for it, verify it with your own data and use cases. Why is this experiment worth your time right now? Because agentic capabilities are here and they're becoming more powerful. If these models can reliably handle complex multi-step tasks without constant handholding, it changes the game entirely for automation. Understanding the real-world cost and performance early on will give you a significant strategic edge in deciding where and how to integrate these powerful new capabilities into your products and internal operations. This isn't just about playing with a new API, it's about understanding a fundamental shift in how AI can operate. That's it for today's No BS AI briefing. If this helped, follow the show in your podcast app and share it with one builder you know. And if you've got questions or topics you want covered, connect with me on LinkedIn and send them over. See you in the next briefing.